YouTube, welcome back to the homestead. My name is Mike and I'm back with another video. And today we're closing up the bees for the winter. We have a lot to do and a lot to get into this video, so stick around and let's jump right into it. So a couple of the things that we're going to be doing today is, well, one, we're going to be taking that honey super off the top of the beehive there. Now I don't think there's very much honey in there. I added that pretty late in the season just to get some hopes that, that we can get some more honey, but I just don't think that they had enough time to make honey. But we have to remove that for one major reason, and that's because when you have a lot of extra space on top of the hive, the bees feel that they need to keep that space warm, and they come together in the winter and they huddle tight like penguins in the North Pole, and they keep that energy and heat inside of their mass. Now when you have give them more space to heat, they have to expend more energy, thus eat more honey, and they die. So we don't want to do that. We want our bees to live through the winter, so we're going to remove that and give them a better chance to make it through the winter with a tighter, warmer space. And just a little sidebar here, guys, I do recommend getting these yellow containers and organizing your stuff. Like, this is all beekeeping stuff in here, and it really changed my life once I started organizing this way. The second thing we're going to be doing today is we're going to be making sure that the bees are fed, and we're going to go over the different types of sugars and the ratio for sugar that we want to feed the bees to get them plumped up for the winter. We want to give them a heavier feeding of sugar water so that the sugar content in the water is greater than what it was in the spring or the summer, to give those bees that extra girth that they're gonna, help them get it through the winter. What we're really going to be doing is a 2-to-1 sugar to water ratio, which will help the bees put on that extra girth or that extra weight that will give them the ability to make it through the winter. We really want to fatten them up, as they say, to help them get through those cold temperatures. Kind of like what we do. I mean, at least what I do. I definitely put on a couple pounds in the fall. And I like to say that that's strategic, because I'm trying to keep warm for the winter, but man, I'm lying when I say that. I just love Thanksgiving and all the food that comes with it. So anyway, let's get into the beehive now. So on the last beekeeping video that I put up, a lot of you guys chimed in, and I really do appreciate when you do that, but some of the things that you guys mentioned, or at least some of you mentioned, was stand behind the entrance of the beehive and they won't they won't attack you so much. So that was great insight. I do appreciate that. I had been doing that ever since, and it's been working out for me. So let's pop the top on this hood here. And I do see a hive beetle now. That's not necessarily a good sign. So let me bring you guys in. I'll show you what I see. If you see that right there, guys, that thing is what they call a hive beetle. I just smashed him, but oh, he's still kicking. So that guy right there is a hive beetle, and we don't want them in our hive at all. So I'll go ahead and smush him. Not too many up top here, and not very much formation of some comb or anything like that up top, which I didn't expect. Again, I kind of put this top box on a little late in the season, and just by looking at down in here, I can see that there's really not any development, any comb. So they haven't really built this out at all. So just as I suspected, there's really no comb development down in there. They really haven't drawn any comb out. And there's definitely no honey or anything in there. We do have a queen excluder underneath this, so there really could only be honey and honeycomb in there, and they really haven't done much. So I don't know if you guys can see down in there, but there's not a whole lot of activity going on, and we aren't even going to pull these frames out to look, because I can see. So we're going to take this top box right off and just remove it completely, because we don't need it there for the winter. Okay, so as you can see, like I mentioned, this metal bar here is the queen excluder, and there are quite a bit of hive beetles I'm seeing. There are, you know, not a good sign when you see hive beetles in your hive like that. So let's take this queen excluder off. Let's see what's going on. These black things here that I have, these are called the hive beetle traps, and the bees have built quite a bit of propolis around these things, but they're meant to I fill them with oil, and we trap the hive beetles inside there, and they fall down in the oil. The bees will chase them into these traps, and it's supposed to catch and kill them, but I don't think we had much luck with these traps. So here's a good example of what the hive beetle traps do. The beetles, this is oil, just olive oil, I put it down in there. And what the beetles do is, or the bees will chase the beetles into these little grooves here, but the bees can't go in, and the beetles will then fall in and get trapped in the oil, and I guess either drown or just suffocate from that. So that's how these traps work, and as you saw, there's quite a few beetles in there, which means they were working. However, I did see quite a bit of hive beetles that weren't in the traps running around, and that's not a good sign. So we'll have to do a little bit more research. If you guys are experienced beekeepers, and I'm sure some of you are, give me a comment down below and let me know what you guys do about your hive beetles, because from what I hear is every hive has them. It's just a matter of managing the population. So leave me a comment down below. I really would appreciate to hear from you guys. So some of my goals for this inspection here are not to go through every single frame. I want to just get a good understanding of how my population is doing. It's been a week or at least 2 weeks since I've been in here, and I don't necessarily know what's been going on these last 2 weeks. And this is one of the last checks that I'll do in the season. I want to make sure that everything's okay. Bees are in here, they're doing all right. I see, and I just really am looking for the queen and to see how she's doing, and that's really it. So they have some good winter stores, some really good winter stores there. That's all honey. Everything that's all capped over there, this side not so much, but that's there's definitely some good winter stores here that they've been working hard to make. And looking at my bottom board, I see that there's a lot of garbage and lots of moths. These are the hive moths, I think they're called. If you could see those guys running around, they have larvae, and this is not good. So I'm gonna clean this off and take care of this, before we go into winter. But this is pretty much one season's worth of debris that the honeybees created. So we'll put this aside. I'm actually going to put this away from the hive. We'll clean that guy off there, and we'll take more look of that. So after doing the inspection, I was really concerned about this board here and all of this debris and all the little critters that are living in this debris. So what I'm seeing is a lot of these moths. These are those white hive moths, and I believe, let's see if we can focus here. You guys can see that worm that's wiggling across the screen there. I believe that's a hive moth larvae. And this is what we do not want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this board off. I'm going to rinse it off with some water, scrub it down with a little bit of soap and alcohol to kill everything. And then I'm going to actually put this back in the hive to continue to monitor and see what's going on here. So let's do that now. All right, well, it's not perfect, but it'll do. It's much better than what it was. So let's get this thing reinstalled and let's go talk about some feed. So I'm gonna leave this box and the queen excluder just sitting out in the grass overnight. The honeybee hive is just right there, and there are quite a few bees that are still in this box. They were trying to do something for this season, but there's just not enough time. So if I leave it right here overnight, and I'll probably move it to the wood chip so it doesn't get all dewy and wet, but all those bees will hopefully find their way back to the hive and then go home with all their friends. So that's where that's gonna stay overnight, and then I'll put that away for next year in the shed. So when we're talking about bee food, we're really talking about a weight and a ratio. So what that means is the bees will eat sugar water or simple syrup, as some of you might know, as their food source for calories and energy. Now, what they usually do is they'll have a 1-to-1 ratio to sugar and water by weight. But now we're in the fall and we're trying to bulk them up for winter and put some meat on their bones. So what we have to do is give them a 2-to-1 sugar to water ratio so that when they drink this thicker syrup, they can turn it into honey and food stores quicker and easier. Their bodies don't have to work as hard to turn it into honey. So this is what we're going to be doing right now. Now, some of the tools that you're going to need are very, very hot pot of water. You want to make sure that this water isn't rolling, boiling, but you want it to be really hot so it dissolves the amount of sugar that we're going to be putting in it. And don't forget, we're doing 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. So that means that this is going to be a thick slurry, and the hotter the water, the quicker the sugar will dissolve into solution, which is ultimately what we want. So we need a hot pot of water. We need sugar. You don't want to use brown sugar or organic or this or that. You want to just get plain Jane white sugar. It's the cheapest on the shelf. You don't want any additives in it, just sugar. The second thing, or the third thing we're going to need is a scale. Now, the scale is going to allow us to weigh the water and the sugar. So I'll show you as we get there, but we're going to want to do 2-to-1. The next thing is obviously a spoon. We want to stir it up. And then we have a cool little device that I found on Amazon. You guys can check that out too. But it actually connects to the beehive and allows the bees to just come right out to the entrance and drink the sugar water that we make. And that's I'll show you that little dispenser shortly. So let's get started. Let's get to making this sugar slurry or 2-to-1 simple syrup. Okay, so we got all of our stuff here. We're ready to make some simple syrup or some bee food. So first thing you're going to do is we're going to turn our digital scale on, and you don't need this particular one. You could use any scale. We got our measuring jar. We're going to put that on the scale and we're going to tear that out. As you can see, it's 442 grams. We're going to hit the tear button. And now it should be 0, but it's reading -1. I think that's fine. We'll tear it out one more time. There we go. and now we're at 0, so with the jar on it. So now we can properly measure. Now we're gonna do our sugar first, because we don't wanna get the jar all wet and then add the sugar to it. That might, you know, create a mess and screw things up with our weight. And then we're gonna transfer it into this jar here, which is our feed jar. Now what I'm going to do is just pretty much eye this out and go to about halfway of this jar, maybe a little more than halfway of this jar with sugar, which is getting me to 481. Let's make it an easy number. Let's get to like 490. Okay, there we go, 500. So that's 500 grams of sugar. So what we're gonna do is put this into our feed jar here, and the feed jar just has a top with little holes. You can really use any mason jar. This is just a ball mason jar. It's the top that's important, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So you add that, we have our 500 grams of sugar. We'll transfer that into our feed jar. And it's very important you use the same jar on your measurement and your weight, because we know that this jar weighs exactly what this scale. It's a 441. This jar might weigh, you know, 500. It might throw us off. So it's important to use the same jar to keep your measurements exactly the same. Don't forget, we're doing 2 to 1. So we did 500 grams of sugar. We need to add 250 grams of water to give us our 2 to 1 ratio. So let's keep adding this until we get to about 250 grams. Now, I don't know if you guys can see the scale, but I'll tell you when we get there. We're going, and we'll stop right there. So let me get you guys a little closer. We are at 259, so we're a couple grams off. You know, I'm not gonna split hairs here and go crazy. We are pretty close. So we're gonna add this amount of water to this amount of sugar. So that should be interesting to watch this dissolve, but let's see it happen, because this water is very hot. It's bubbling, it's bubbling, it's bubbling, and it certainly is dissolving. You can see that yellow color. And this is where the spoon comes into play. You want to make sure that you really get all the sugar dissolved into this water, that you don't want to leave any granulated sugar, which is why we heated this water up, so that it can help dissolve and hold more sugar than it originally could if it was cold. So we're stirring, and I could tell you right now that we are almost completely dissolved here. And just like that, that's our mixture. All right, we're in front of the beehive now, and we're losing daylight, so bear with me, guys. It's getting a little dark, but we have our simple syrup, or our bee food, and I have it in this little administer here, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's little like beads of sugar water that are building up on those little holes that are in the top of that thing. And what this little chamber does is it gives the bees a perfect little hallway to go and suckle on that sugar and go right back into their hive. And that's what these two little legs are, these little lips. Now, if you see on the beehive itself, there's two slots. One of them is going to be used for this, and if you can notice that, they're almost exactly the same size for this bee feeder. So this goes just like that. Now, if you guys can see that, those two little legs kind of cling right on to our one entryway, and now this entryway is going to act as they're coming and going on these nice days in the winter when they can come out and stretch their wings to come out and poop. But as you can see, this is just clinging right on, and it gives them a perfect in and out that's sealed up. So like there's no gaps here. So in the winter, they can come in and drink some of this. So that's pretty cool. And if you also notice, it's tilted back so that as this drips down, it won't just run into their hive and kind of, you know, get them all wet and create condensation and things like that. It's designed to hang down a little bit so that the water sits in the back of this thing if it does accumulate. All right, guys, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. Thank you for staying. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more beekeeping content from me or general homesteading content like splitting wood, growing fruit and vegetables, hit the subscribe button. I try to come out with a video once a week if I can. So I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.